Hello everyone, welcome back to the C Morning Show right here on C. Today we're now jumping into our first discussion talk show of the day, and we know now we've been heard a lot definitely in this present day of how we Indonesians envision of the golden Indonesia for 2045, and that means that we have to tap in the children's future. But we know now on the factual that some children still face challenges accessing education due to poverty and the lack of infrastructure.
Now, to address the issue, an Indonesian youth man has initiated free education and skill development for children.
It's really inspiring, by the way,
cool.
that I just need to have that little breather.
Yeah.
Now, to learn more of the efforts and initiative, we're now joined by this young man, Dylan Gunadi, founder of the non-governmental organization called Cahaya Nusantara Infinity. Good morning, Dylan. Thank you very much for joining us right here.
Nice to meet you guys.
Oh my gosh.
Nice to meet you too.
You are such an inspiration that we just need to share that with you before we're going to jump into the discussion.
It's a great opportunity to
Let's talk about a little bit of context here. Now, how old were you when you first started this organization?
So when I started CNI, I was actually 15 years old back
15.
in the start of COVID. You know, I was a teenager that didn't have much to do. So, you know, I just started it, when I was 15.
So now you are 17 years old.
I'm 17 years old.
You're still in high school, you're
Yeah.
senior class. I'm just kind of like mind-blowing because of this, because during COVID, you know, we've seen a lot of children are being more gadget savvy or more into this digital world, but you also using this digital platform, but doing for something that is just beyond my imagination for a young age of 15 years old. So what did you do? Share with us the story during those time you were searching, or is this a part of our school project that you finally went deep dive and delve into this?
Yeah, so maybe for some context, CNI is Bimbingan Belajar, if you will, like a free tutoring center.
Yes.
We teach over 100 kids living in poverty. They're enrolled currently. And we have 2 branches in BSD and Tangerang. As for how I started this, you know, it's a funny story because it started all back when I was in freshman year still.
Okay.
I was in my social studies class and we were asked to find some global issue that we're passionate about. And being a 9th grader, I didn't know the answer to that. So I just looked at the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Basically, I just looked at the list and saw education up there, and I just, you know, I have to do this task. So I searched it up. Little did I know it would become a huge thing for me later on. I did a deep dive on the research, did extensive research on the topic, and found that only 30% of Indonesians make it to high school and graduate.
Right.
And less than 10% in some areas. For me, that was really moving because as a high school student myself, I felt that I had access to all the education and the teachers and the support that I needed, but these kids didn't. There were children out there my age who didn't have that, and I wouldn't be the same person I am today without it. So I felt moved. I did more research. A few months later, found places with low income, high poverty, where they could be targeted the most. And you know, I took a risk. I found this house, this really humble house. It's like, it's not a building or anything, nothing fancy. It's just a house. I rented it out, and I just started teaching there. You know, after school. It's a bit funny because I seem like this creepy guy to the neighborhood at first. You know, I'm just this kid who's asking other children like, "Hey, come, I'll teach you, I'll help you with your schoolwork."
Yeah.
And they're like, who are you? You're a stranger,
I mean,
right?
it started with me just reading books to them. Like,
Really?
yeah, it was really interesting for me. But as the community began to trust us more, we began to grow, word spread, and we were able to employ full-time teachers. And the initiative has really blossomed into something that has gone far beyond my imagination.
That's great, man. It sounds like you certainly have a lot of initiative and passion for it as well, to see, you know, the struggles of, you know,
his
children.
own peers.
Exactly, your own peers, but those who are in a less fortunate, you know, let's say economic conditions and kind of social conditions as yourself. And I'm, you know, curious. Obviously, you've emphasized how important it is that education affects the way that children can grow into the future. But you also mentioned, I think either earlier your mom would, cook food for them as well. So nutrition is clearly a very important part of that as well. So can you tell me about how that drives you? What is it about this concern that drives you to help them at all, particularly in nutrition as well?
Yeah. So nutrition is really important when it comes to this whole education system.
Right.
A lot of people, it's not exactly the first thing you go to when you think of limiting factors, but really as time passed, me and the teachers began to observe whenever I would visit, like a lot of the kids there are really smart, but sometimes they're not as focused.
Right.
We wondered why that is.
Yeah.
We did a lot of qualitative analysis, just jotting down observations, and we realized like these children are struggling to make ends meet usually. They live meal to meal, and who knows if they're getting adequate nutrition, and they're not. I did more of my own research, and we found that brain development, cognitive function is all slowed down when it comes to inadequate nutrition, and without it, therefore, academic performance is also decreased. And it was really concerning because without nutrition, it's just basic logic. You can't think as well, you can't process as well, and you can't learn as well. And that's really like what limits their potential educational outcome.
Yeah.
And definitely for these children, especially in the low-income families, they don't know which one is right and which one is nutritious, right?
Right,
Let's say
of
they
course,
have like a 2,000 rupiah
That's correct.
as their pocket money for, like, let's say for a day. They would rather buy something like snacks that, is more flavorful and whatnot, but let's say they could buy one apple.
Right,
And if they know which one is good for them and they're educated, if they're giving the awareness, then they would choose that apple as opposed to the snack itself. 100%. And we know now with the new president-elect, one of their programs is a free meal for school. I mean, when we live abroad, we know if we go to, elementary, junior high, and high school, we do have our free meals in the cafeteria.
Yeah,
and those meals are very nutritious, right? But, some of the children right here, especially going to a public school in Indonesia, they can't afford, those privileges. And it's great now that the government is also, pushed forward for this free meal, like good nutritious meal for the children, alongside with your initiative and also your efforts to share awareness to them, educate them what is good and what is not for you.
Yes.
And starting from their, the younger age, then they will propel to become an adult. They know which one is good for their health, for their physics.
Yeah.
Great things is going to happen to them for their livelihoods. In regards to this, I am just very inspired where you said, I asked you, before we jump into the discussion before, who is your friends helping you? It's like, is there a team?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm by myself. Sometimes my mom would help me to cook and whatnot.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you? I mean, you were taking off your time. You're still going to school right now. You're still in high school. So time for you to get your education, time with your friends, and now you also have this initiative of yours. How do you kind of like scramble all your agenda, but still very passionate, for this, for CNI?
Yeah. It was pretty tough at first, I wasn't used to what it took to really like manage an organization. I wasn't aware of what it took. But, during COVID, we were all in our homes. I thought that I had a lot of time on my hands at the time. And it was the summer when I started actually, so I wasn't in school. So I was able to manage it at first. But as time went on and school started, it was a bit more difficult, and that's when I had to look into finding sponsors to be able to fund full-time teachers and whatnot. And once I was able to do that, it felt more manageable. But if there's one thing I could say, it's that it's really worth it. I have free time as a student, and I dedicate almost all of it to this organization and being able to invest in what I believe is our nation's future.
Right.
I just think it's so important. I think the reward is really in like what I'm doing. So it doesn't seem like a task to me.
Yeah.
Being able to use all my free time just to spend to this organization is the reward in itself for me, and that's really what's driving me.
Yeah. It's very nice that you're finding quite a lot of meaning in doing this. And I'm a little bit curious. You've done this for 3 years now, nearly 3 years. Obviously, you've had a lot of interaction with the kids, with your students, and you've been able to learn their kind of like let's say, weaknesses in terms of their studies. So what are the weaknesses that you've observed within the students that you have in your organization, and how has that developed the programs that you've created within your organization? So what key educational and skill development programs exist?
Yeah, so in terms of weaknesses, a big one is math, is what I noticed.
Math.
When it comes to math, in my research, I found that only 43% of Indonesian 8th graders have knowledge of basic functions like addition and subtraction, which is crazy to me. You know, we learned that at a primary level, maybe even kindergarten level, but some of these kids don't even have knowledge of addition or subtraction. They don't know about it. So we've really had to drill their math skills and help them a lot with it. And that's a key factor in our educational programs. But aside from that, we also teach them English. English is not a subject that's required in elementary schools typically in Jakarta and public schools in Indonesia, but we teach them English because we think it'll prepare them for the labor market in the future.
Right, of course.
Nowadays, English is really just an essential skill. Like, it's almost a requirement in a lot of professional fields, and being able to teach them English and them having knowledge of it is just extremely useful, even if they might not always learn about it.
Yeah. It's not the expertise anymore, right, with English.
It's almost like we're speaking English.
Yeah, it's like, what other languages do you know? Like, okay, English, okay, what other languages? Yeah.
Exactly. I'm curious though, what are the challenges associated with kind of trying to catch these children up to the level of mathematics that we would expect ourselves to have had at their age, and to the level of English that we would also expect of ourselves to have at that age as well?
In general, a big issue that we have with our programs in English and math, a lot of the times, the children can't always attend class. They're struggling to make ends meet, like I said earlier. They're in survival mode, you know. They're just trying to live so that they can survive. And education, you know, if education is here, then, you know, their life is here. Like, they have to prioritize their family and stuff. And a lot of the times, these kids help with their parents' work because the parents often need help in their own work, and the children have to help them. Yeah. So they can't attend class. But a way we found to manage that issue is, you know, even if they can't come during the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., we have a live-in teacher there. So they do live in the actual place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we are closed officially at 3 p.m., but CNI is really like a second home to these children. They feel comfortable talking to the teachers whenever they want. It's like a second guardian, you know, to them. Yeah. So sometimes the children come in at nighttime. Sometimes they come in after 3 p.m. whenever they can, just to learn. And we totally support that because we believe taking that extra step and sacrifice is essential. And it's really thanks to our lovely teachers. Like, they're willing to make that sacrifice for the organization and the future.
It's like a safe haven, definitely, for the children. This is like a YMCA, like a community space, definitely. And hopefully with Cahaya Nusantara Infinity is going to broaden now, not only for the education, but later on it could be for sports, you know, development and whatnot. Because it seems that, you know, the children, you know, does love to be there amongst you, and also, you know, your staffs and the educators also. In regards to this, yes, this has been gone through, CNI has been gone through now 2 years, and probably going to step into the third year. And we know for you to run an organization, there needs to be a funding. So how did you manage to find these resources for, you know, CNI to be sustainable?
Especially at the start, most of the funding came from my own pocket.
Wow.
Right, okay.
I had saved up for months to start this project while I was doing my research and stuff. And we do have sponsors, corporate sponsors. But you can trust me when I say that the budget for this is not too expensive. And you can trust me because I'm a teenager, you know, I don't work.
Yeah.
I'm 17.
Yes.
I only get an allowance, but I'm still able to start this project. And, you know, I guess it kind of shows you, like, no matter what age you are, like
Yeah.
you can really have your own impact if you just look around your surroundings. It doesn't have to be as a big thing, but you could just start small. But yeah, the funding has mostly come out of my pocket and sponsors.
Well, I mean, it says a lot, though, about the impact that you've created from the small funding that you've had to start with, because now you've had, at least if I'm not mistaken, several hundred or 100 or so kids coming into your organization, right? And certainly, I can imagine you'd hoped for a bigger impact in the future. How do you see your organization growing towards that, would you say?
So we want to scale, obviously. We want to have a bigger initiative. We want to always be growing. That's always the goal. When it comes to the future, we really want to get in touch with and work with the government body as a whole. You know? With them, it's possible to do much more than just with myself and our team. With them, we're able to, you know, spread the initiative all around the nation, not just Jakarta. We're able to spread it nationwide, make it bigger. And the ultimate goal is to, I'm aware that the president, the upcoming president, Mr. Prabowo, one of his initiatives is about free meals for these children and for Indonesian citizens. And I think when it comes to that, we really share a similar vision.
Yeah.
We also want similar stuff when it comes to that. We really are driving for nutritional change for these children, because we see the effect is so needed in the future, and it's so dire for our community. So the ultimate goal is to work with the government body as a whole, get in touch with them, and hopefully make bigger plans. But we are very open to collaboration, and we can work with anybody. So if you're watching this and you're inclined to be a part of this initiative, then please reach out.
Definitely, Dylan Gunadi, the founder of Cahaya Nusantara Infinity. Thank you for being you. Thank you for what you're doing. It seems that right now we're seeing the facts, how the driving force, especially from the youth or the younger generation of Indonesia, is playing your part. You're making value, you're putting values and also an effort, your initiative from a peer to another peer, and this is what Indonesia is all about. And hopefully, of all the wishes that you just said before, it will all come true. You will tap in with government bodies and also stakeholders and private sectors to work with you and to work definitely to collaborate for a better, greater future for Indonesia and the younger generation, and definitely for Cahaya Nusantara Infinity. Thank you very much, Dylan.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. You're in your senior class, and after that, definitely we're going to see more of Dylan Gunadi right here in Indonesia.
I have no doubt.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
No doubt.
No, Mes was going to say, we're going to see him as a minister or up there in the government official one day.
100%.
Thank you very much, Dylan, for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Best of luck with everything, man.
Yes. Now we're going to take another break, guys. And folks, in the meantime, stay connected with us right here on the See Today News on Instagram, x.com, and also YouTube. We'll be back with many more updates. Stay tuned.
Dylan, thank you.